explain what this universal sewing aid is or does. It's a rectangle, 8 inches by 2 inches. That's the ideal size for the inside pocket, zipper pocket. At Serial Bag Makers, I make all my zipper pockets with a facing. And my facings are almost always 8 inches by 2 inches. So if this piece of paper would be a piece of fabric, I would cut along and that's done. I don't have to measure, I just have my correct size. I can cut along because this is a 3 millimeters, a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch acrylic plastic. At the center of this rectangle, I have my zipper box. I don't have to measure, it's the correct size. Why is it the correct size? Because I have 5/8 on this side, 5/8 on this side. So that's it for my zipper. What can I do as extras with this? There are 3 lines. One-eighth, 1/4, and 3/8. If you need to measure, at the top of a wallet pocket, this is 1/8. That's the ideal distance for top stitching. So you can just do it this way, and then you know that's okay. 1/4 is also a measurement used very often in pouches and in bags. If you need to measure a seam allowance of 1/8 or of 1/4, you measure and you have them. In my wallets, I very often position 2 separate card slots at 3/8 of an inch. So here I just position it at the 3rd line. I place my 2nd pocket. I clip and I can stitch. There's another line here at the center. So this distance is 1 inch. That's also something we very often use, a 1 inch thing. What are those little holes here? If you are placing rivets, it's very nice if they are at the same distance from each other. So if you are placing rivets, three rivets on a strap, then you count, okay, I like this distance. That's 3 holes in between. It's 1, 2, 3. And then they have the same distance between each other. Another thing that's on it, that's your seam allowance. To show that, I need to go to my sewing machine. So, if you're new to your machine or you have never measured and you need to know your seam allowance, you can use a tool like this. It's very important when you are making a pattern that you are using the exact seam allowance that the designer intended it to be. Here you can see 1/8 ideal for top stitching, 1/4 for most linings or for smaller objects, 3/8 that's used the most in all bags. Then you have 1/2 inch, that's mostly used for swan bags, and you have 5/8 of an inch. Swan will very often use 1.5 inch for the exterior and 5/8 for the lining. So you always are sewing the lining 1/8 less. In my patterns at Serial Bag Makers, I very often have different lining pieces, lining pattern pieces, so there you do not have to change your seam allowance. But if you don't know on what setting you have to put your machine to have exactly 3/8 or 1/4 or 1/8, this tool will help you. How do you do that? I know that the setting on my machine (4.5) will give me a seam allowance of 1/8. Let's see if I'm right. I was wrong. On my new machine, it's clearly not 1/8. So, if I need to know what this is or how I have to place my needle to get it to there, I will need to move my needle. It's clear I cannot get 1/8 of an inch with this foot, so I will need to change my foot. Or another possibility is that I use some washi tape and place this on my machine. Now I know that if I place my needle at 4.5 and my fabric here, that my seam allowance will be exactly 1/8 of an inch. For me, top stitching, it does not has to be exactly at 1/8 of an inch, as long as you are using the same seam allowance everywhere in your project, it will be okay. The 1/4 and the 3/8, that's a lot more important. So normally 1/4 is 2.8. Let's see if I'm right. Yes, this is completely right. You can see that the edge of my foot is now the edge of this ruler. So I can use my large magnet, and if I guide my fabric right to my large magnet, I will have 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. I can do the same thing for 3/8. Normally on a fav, that means setting your needle in the 0 position. And that is absolutely right. So this way you can measure the seam allowance for your machine, for this foot, for that foot, for whatever. You normally need this just once, but it's all on the same sewing aid. This big hole is just so you can hang it. These little things are solely for your seam allowance. They are all ideal as a little gift. I often give them as a little gift for my clients. And the only thing you do is you measure 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, a half and 5/8. You can hang them at your keychain or with a magnet at the side of your set.